When we look at the world around us, the cities we live in, the laws we obey, the technologies we use, and even the values we hold, it is easy to see them as physical or cultural realities. But beneath it all lies something less visible, yet infinitely more powerful: ideas. Every bridge, every constitution, every piece of art, and every discovery began as nothing more than a thought in someone's mind, a spark of imagination or insight that pushed humanity forward. The story of civilization is, at its core, the story of ideas, transforming the intangible into the tangible, shaping the trajectory of societies and the destinies of entire generations. Without ideas, there would be no civilizations, only scattered groups of people surviving day by day. But with ideas, humans have built empires, abolished oppression, cured diseases, launched satellites, and explored not only the physical world, but also the invisible realms of philosophy, morality, and possibility. The earliest evidence of the transformative power of ideas can be found in the simple yet profound notion of communication. Human language, an idea that emerged gradually as early hominids developed sounds to represent meanings, allowed for the transfer of knowledge, warning of dangers, coordination in hunting, and, later, the sharing of stories. Oral traditions gave tribes cohesion, history, and identity. But the breakthrough came when humans developed writing, turning fleeting spoken words into permanent records. The idea of writing aloud for the preservation of laws, literature, religious beliefs, and scientific knowledge, making it possible for wisdom to outlast a single lifetime. This marked the beginning of civilizations as we know them, where ideas could not only survive across generations but also accumulate, creating compounding knowledge. The cuneiform tablets of Mesopotamia, the hieroglyphs of Egypt, and the scripts of ancient China were not merely symbols carved into clay or stone. They were the seeds of complex societies, enabling trade, governance, and culture to flourish. Alongside language and writing, another transformative idea emerged: governance. Human beings needed order, rules, and a way to balance individual desires with communal survival. Early civilizations experimented with monarchies, tribal councils, and divine rule. But one of the most influential political ideas to ever emerge was democracy. Born in Athens in the 5th century BC, it was revolutionary not because it was perfect, it excluded women, slaves, and foreigners, but because it proposed that power could rest in the collective hands of the people, rather than in the grasp of kings and conquerors. This idea planted a seed that would echo through history, re-emerging centuries later in the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and countless other movements for liberty. It inspired constitutions, declarations, and human rights charters that continue to shape nations today. The idea of democracy, like many ideas, evolved, expanded, and adapted, but its original spark that ordinary citizens have a voice remains one of the most powerful intellectual contributions to civilization. At the same time, religion and philosophy offered different sets of ideas, ones that addressed humanity's existential questions. The concept of gods, morality, and life after death was not simply about spiritual comfort. It provided social cohesion, a framework of values, and motivation for human behavior. The Ten Commandments, for example, were not only religious doctrines, but also practical rules for building trust within a community. Similarly, philosophical ideas from thinkers like Socrates, Confucius, and Buddha pushed humanity to question ethics, purpose, and the nature of truth. These ideas formed the moral backbone of civilizations, shaping cultures across continents. Even when societies disagreed on theology, they shared the recognition that ideas about morality and meaning were necessary for human life to have structure beyond survival. The progression of science and technology was equally dependent on ideas. The leap from stone tools to bronze and then to iron was more than just a technological evolution. It was the result of human imagination, the idea that materials could be manipulated to serve purposes beyond their natural state. Fire, one of humanity's earliest discoveries, was not merely stumbled upon but understood, harnessed, and replicated. The wheel was not just a physical object. It was the manifestation of the idea that motion could be transferred and controlled. Agriculture was born from the idea that humans did not need to depend solely on hunting, but could manipulate the earth to produce food predictably. These early technological ideas laid the groundwork for civilization's growth, allowing permanent settlements, surpluses, and the rise of cities. The Industrial Revolution offers one of the clearest examples of how ideas completely reshaped the world. It began with small concepts: mechanization, the harnessing of steam power, and the organization of labor. But these ideas combined to create a global transformation. Factories replaced workshops, trains replaced horses, and entire nations shifted from agrarian economies to industrial powerhouses. With it came both progress and problems, wealth and urbanization, but also pollution, inequality, and child labor. Yet, the underlying truth was clear: ideas, once unleashed, could not be contained. They spread across borders, sparking revolutions, wars, and reforms. The idea of capitalism itself, rooted in private property, free markets, and profit, became the engine of modern economies, while the opposing idea of socialism challenged it, insisting that wealth should be shared more equitably. The 20th century, with its ideological battles between capitalism, communism, and democracy, shows how ideas can shape not only economies, but also wars and the fate of entire nations. In more recent times, ideas have transformed at an even faster pace, particularly in science and technology. The discovery of electricity was first an abstract idea explored by scientists like Benjamin Franklin, Alessandro Volta, and Michael Faraday, but it evolved into one of the most practical forces shaping modern life. Without the idea of harnessing electricity, there would be no light bulbs, no telephones, no computers, and no internet. Similarly, the idea of flight, once dismissed as a fantasy, became reality through the Wright brothers and has since connected the globe, shrinking the distance between continents. The idea of digital computation, sparked by visionaries like Alan Turing, led to the creation of computers and later the internet, which has completely redefined communication, commerce, and culture. Today, artificial intelligence stands as the newest frontier of ideas, where machines are being designed to think, learn, and even create, challenging our very definitions of intelligence and humanity. What is perhaps most remarkable about ideas is that they rarely exist in isolation. They build upon one another, evolving as they interact. For example, the idea of human rights was influenced by religious moral codes, philosophical reasoning from the Enlightenment, and political movements for independence. The idea of global trade was born from the combination of geographic discoveries, economic theories, and technological innovations like the compass and ships, capable of crossing oceans. Each generation inherits not just the material world of buildings, machines, and institutions, but also the intellectual world of concepts, theories, and beliefs, which they reinterpret and reshape to fit new contexts. Ideas evolve much like living organisms. They adapt, merge, compete, and sometimes go extinct, but their legacy often survives in new forms. The world we live in now, a world of instant communication, global markets, advanced medicine, and even space exploration, is the direct result of countless ideas that stretched across time. They were born in the minds of dreamers, rebels, philosophers, inventors, and ordinary individuals who dared to question what is, and imagine what could be. Ideas remain humanity's greatest tool, more powerful than armies and more enduring than empires. Nations have risen and fallen, leaders have come and gone, but ideas like freedom, equality, science, and progress continue to shape the destiny of mankind. To understand the modern world, one must look beyond physical structures and technological marvels and recognize that behind it all lies the invisible yet undeniable force of ideas. Ideas not only built the world in physical terms, but also carved out the unseen architecture of how we think, live, and relate to each other. Philosophy, for example, was never about bricks or steel, but about daring to ask questions: what is justice? What is truth? What is the purpose of life? And these questions laid the foundation for law, education, and morality that guide societies even now. Without the ideas of ancient thinkers like Socrates, Confucius, or the Indian sages, humanity might still wander in the dark without the compass of wisdom. Ideas in religion and spirituality gave billions of people a sense of meaning, hope, and ethical guidance, inspiring both unity and transformation. Mathematics, which at first seemed like nothing more than abstract thought, became the hidden language of the universe. Ideas of numbers, patterns, and equations later allowed humans to design architecture, navigate the oceans, launch satellites, and decode the mysteries of space and DNA. In art, ideas have stirred emotions more powerfully than armies, whether through the bold strokes of Renaissance painters, the rebellious creativity of modernists, or the storytelling power of cinema. Ideas in literature gave voice to dreams, fears, and visions, shaping how generations saw themselves and their place in the world. The printing press, itself, born from the idea that knowledge should not remain in the hands of the few, democratized learning and triggered an intellectual explosion that led to revolutions and scientific discovery. Ideas about equality, human rights, and liberty shattered empires and fueled movements that reshaped nations, proving that words and visions could topple even the mightiest rulers. As technology advanced, it was not machines alone but the ideas behind them that mattered most. The idea that humans could split the atom, the idea that diseases could be fought with vaccines, the idea that computers could process information at speeds beyond human comprehension. Each of these began as a spark in the mind of someone who dared to dream differently. Today, our digital age itself is the living embodiment of ideas. Social media is not just platforms and code, but the idea of global conversation. Cryptocurrencies are not just digital coins, but the idea of decentralized value. Artificial intelligence is not just algorithms, but the idea that machines could simulate human reasoning and even creativity. Looking forward, it is ideas, not resources, not armies, that will determine the future of humanity. The idea that we can heal the planet with sustainable energy, the idea that we can colonize other planets, the idea that we can merge biology with technology to overcome aging and disease. All of these are already shaping what the 21st century and beyond will look like. Ideas are alive, and they leap from mind to mind, evolving as they spread, outliving those who first imagined them. This is why the world as we know it is not simply built of stone, steel, or silicon. It is built of ideas that once seemed impossible, foolish, or even dangerous, but were powerful enough to reshape reality itself.